Welcome, everyone, to our Quantum Sparks program, our 20-minute micro class, where each week we cover new ways to grow your business and your life. Lots of philosophy built in. So let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about creating an unshakable identity as to who you are as a human being. And it's interesting because if you think about it, how do you get to a place where you are? Many of you have never really thought about, like, who am I as a human being? And why is that? How do you get to 30, 40, 70, or 80 years old and never really think about who you are as a human being? And the biggest reason for that is because we are programmed from a very early age. And once we're programmed, we rarely question anything. So from childhood, we're shaped by our parents, schools, religion, and society to conform, not to explore. Most people are taught what to think, how to think, and by the time they hit adulthood, those programs run so deeply in them that they feel like they are the truth, even if they are not. As well, once you get out of school, then we have a checklist of things that we go through in life. Once we get out of school, we get a job, we get married, we have kids, we buy a house. And many become so consumed by just doing life that they never really reflect on who they are within their life. And identity gets built around the roles that you end up taking as a parent, a spouse, an employee, but really never focusing on the soul underneath. All of this is so important because part of the Quantum Sparks program is to help you become a master manifester, that you can manifest all the things you wish to be and do in life. You can literally have anything you want, but we need to have authenticity because authenticity enables us to be better manifestors for all the good things in life, because we become aligned with the person that we believe ourselves to be. Well, what does that mean if the person we believe ourselves to be is an identity that was put upon us either through childhood or through the roles that we took after childhood? The other reason many never really think about their identity is because they just fear looking too closely and questioning, like, who am I really? Um, the reason that's scary is because it's scary to think about that you could have gotten to where you are now in life and never really considered it. And when you do finally consider it, you realize that you are living somebody else's dream. Maybe the reason you're in the career you're in, or maybe the reason you're in the marriage you're in, is because you are living a dream that somebody else created for you. And that's scary. And maybe some of you will look at it and realize that your inner world, who you believe yourself to be, your identity, has been neglected for a really long time. So oftentimes people avoid the mirror, not out of ignorance, but because they want to protect themselves. It's easier just to go on believing what we already believe. Another reason why many never really think about identity in life is because busyness, not business, although it could be business too, but busyness becomes a shield. When life is noisy and busy, there's no time to sit and to reflect about who you are. But that busyness often masks an avoidance of deeper, scarier questions about meaning and purpose and authenticity and who you are. And on top of that, society often celebrates the ideal image. In other words, we're often rewarded for the mask we create instead of who we truly are, the truth. Productivity, success, appearance, compliance, all of those things end up getting rewarded in the society that we live in. So being who you truly are might mean being seen as different, seen as being weird or rebellious or selfish. And oftentimes people trade authenticity. You trade your authenticity for acceptance in the world that we live in, and they never go back. And so for many individuals, it's not until middle age that they sit and notice cracks, little cracks happening in life. And it is when those cracks start to appear that they start to look at, well, who am I? Why am I in this career? Why am I at this place in my life? And this is often where your true self starts to come out. And you start to ask yourself, is there more? But what you have to realize is that when you hear that, when you hear yourself saying, like, is there more to me? Is there more to life than me just going through the day-to-day checklists? That whisper that you hear is the beginning of becoming the real you. Because I believe that it's not really that people are unwilling to know themselves. It's that the world rarely teaches us how. We are ingrained to become a particular person by the environments that we are born into, and we are never taught how or why to become our own version of ourselves. But when that moment of awareness comes, even if it's late, it can be the most important turning point in your life. So becoming a truly authentic version of yourself is where the magic happens, where you start to manifest all the good things that you hoped for in your life. So today we're going to talk about creating your unshakable identity. And I hope that for some of you, it causes you to look in and think about who you are as a human being. And there are lots of benefits. One of the scary parts of becoming becoming a new version of you, is it's scary because you're no longer necessarily conforming to the standards of society. But there are so many benefits to becoming the authentic you, from freedom from external validation. You no longer need to seek approval from anybody. You no longer need to keep performing. You just have to be. You also are free from shared illusions. The world lives off of illusions. So the illusions of chasing a status or chasing a trend, or standing back from fear. And part of the mutually shared illusions are a lot of the rules that we live by. And so when you no longer are trying to conform to who you're supposed to be, but rather just being who you are, those rules no longer serve you. They don't serve your soul. You will no longer feel a need to belong. For many, belonging is like a warm blanket. It's so comfortable just to belong. But belonging can also become bondage, especially if it compromises the truth of who you are. True belonging comes when you are free, when you are free to make the choice on what you do and who you surround yourself with. The other reason that you want to build your unshakable identity is so that you're free from all the status games. You're free from the pursuit of power or wealth or admiration. You don't need it. All of it just feeds ego. But when you're working on your soul, you're not worried about that. You're not worried about doing things for ego's sake. Because everything that your ego wants it eventually fades to dust. The big reason for working on your identity and who you are as a human is because it changes who you are fundamentally. It will give you heightened intuition, heightened clarity. You will become a master manifester as you become magic in the world, able to mold and change and work with the universe and the magic that it offers. As well, when you become the authentic version of you, you gain a true self-respect. You look at everything in the world from a new lens, from your point of view, and having respect for yourself first. You stop abandoning yourself just to fit in with what everybody else is doing. And then that self-trust becomes the foundation of all of your decision making. And you will have resilience, inner peace, and all of a sudden you will feel awash in creativity because now the world is your masterpiece. You can be and do and have anything. You can create anything once you are unleashed to become yourself. So let's talk about how to become yourself. As always, I like to remind you that knowledge is not power, execution is power. So hopefully you take some notes today. We've talked about why is it that we haven't thought about who we are in all these years? We're so focused on career and making money and building wealth and getting our kids through school and colleges and stuff like that, but we never sit and reflect on who we are. Why? So we've talked about why we haven't done that. And then we talked about why we should. Let's talk for a minute about why it's hard, because it is hard. And then we're going to talk about steps to do it. So, why is it so hard to become who you are? It's difficult to become who you truly are because everything around you is designed to make you forget who you are. The busyness, the loudness of the world, we are constantly surrounded by noise and distraction everywhere we look. We live now in a world of endless inputs. We have social media, advertising, news, notifications, and it's truly hard to hear your inner voice when the outer world never stops yelling. As well, we still have the cultural pressure to conform. It all started when we were young, and a lot of it is built into us at a very young age. But as we grow, it doesn't get any better. We still have this cultural pressure to conform. So we're conditioned to fit in. We're not conditioned to stand out. Schools, families, workplaces, the world rewards sameness over sovereignty. Authenticity then feels risky in a system that promotes obedience. And we live in a comparison culture. We're constantly comparing our lives to curated highlight reels. Never believe that anything you see on social media is real. It is all curated, and it's the highlight reel. That comparison, when you're comparing yourself to something that doesn't exist anyways, it creates shame or insecurity. It creates self-doubt, and it makes you doubt your own path that you're on. We also have fear of rejection. This is the other reason why it's so hard to really think about and become ourselves, is that it can be lonely. To walk your own path can be lonely. We live in a world where everybody's walking the same path. We're wired for connection. Being your authentic self can risk losing relationships, losing opportunities, and losing approval. So most people just choose to fit in over being truly free. And also it's hard because in order to become the true you, the real you, that unshakable identity, you have to incorporate stillness and self inquiry into your life. It requires reflection. And we said reflection can be hard because when you reflect, you say, wow, I'm here because of something that was input into me many years ago. I was programmed to be this way. But on top of that, we have our fast paced world with all the noise. So, in order to become ourselves, we have to find stillness and we have to dedicate time and effort to looking inside. In the world we live in, for many, identity is built on external metrics. In fact, we're taught that. We're taught to define ourselves by our status, by our appearance, by the amount of money we have, the wealth we've created, our productivity as real estate agents. How many transactions did you close? Instead of being defined by character, integrity, or personal alignment with who we are. And that makes identity super fragile and it makes it dependent on performance. So standing alone can feel unnatural. Going against the grain means being misunderstood or walking alone. And most people aren't taught how to be emotionally resilient in that space, alone, in the stillness, in the quiet, in the peace, and reflecting on oneself. And self reliance is often mistaken for selfishness. And nobody wants to be selfish. In a codependent culture, choosing yourself can be labeled as cold, selfish, or just too much. Authenticity challenges unspoken contracts that we have with our environment and the people that we surround ourselves with. The truth is, the difficulty of becoming who you truly are is exactly what makes it so sacred. When you choose authenticity over approval, clarity over conformity, and alignment over acceptance, you become super powerful. So, why cultivate an unshakable identity? Because it becomes the foundation of inner peace and clarity and strength in a world constantly trying to define you. Think about who defines you. Is it the world around you, or are you defining yourself? So, how to become yourself? Number one, get quiet and hear yourself again. You can't become yourself if you can't hear yourself. So, this requires creating intentional stillness, meditation, going for a nature walk, or just shutting off the phone for a few hours. Disconnect to reconnect. Solitude is not loneliness, it is where the magic happens, where the clarity begins. And then define your inner values, not your borrowed values. Many of the values that you have right now are part of that programming. Now it's your turn to define your values. If you don't define your values, the world assigns them to you. So ask yourself, what truly matters to you? Not to your parents, not to society, not to the people around you. What matters most to you? And then choose those as non-negotiables. Maybe it's freedom, creativity, truth, and live those values daily because you choose to. Start observing your conditioning because you can't change something if you're not aware of it. Start identifying patterns. Where do you perform? Where do you people please? What are the times when you stay silent to avoid rejection? And then notice within yourself what triggers shame or fear or the desire to blend in. Because when you're trying to blend in, that is when your authenticity, who you are, is truly hiding. Start saying no without apology. Every no to misalignment with who you are is a yes to your personal truth. So start small, declining invites or opt out of gossip. Walk away from false urgency. Boundaries will become your compass. Your boundaries will begin to point to who you are and what you believe about yourself. Practice emotional sovereignty. You're not required to carry the emotions or the expectations of others. So let go of needing others to agree with or understand you. Feel your emotions fully, but don't let them dictate your identity. And drop the mask. Authenticity is the opposite of image management. We're not trying to build an image of who you are and putting it out on social media. We're about getting to your soul, who you are as a human being, because when you live authentically, when you live your purpose, you become a manifester for all you want to be and do in the world. So catch yourself when you're editing your truth to be more liked or more palatable or more accepted. Don't worry about those. And speak honestly. Be consistent across rooms. So let your presence match the values that matter most to you. And get super comfortable with being different. The path of truth is often going to make you an outlier. So when you notice that you're different than everybody else, that you don't do the things the way other real estate agents do it, or you don't do things the way other people do them, that's the confirmation that you're becoming yourself. It is not failure. It's confirmation in your becoming. Let go of needing to be understood by other people and stand tall in your alignment, even if it means standing alone, because that is where your self-respect is born. Build your identity from the inside out. Don't let your business, your Facebook followers, don't let your bank account, don't let anything outside of you define who you are. Build identity from qualities that you can control, like your courage and bravery, your integrity, your truth, your love, because those qualities don't fade. They end up anchoring you when things get difficult. And surround yourself with liberated people. As you become the true version of yourself, you're going to lose people who no longer, by the way, you really don't lose them, because somebody who identifies with a version of yourself that is not the true you, when you lose them, you haven't lost them because you weren't who they thought you were anyways. So nothing is lost when you lose people. But as you become an authentic version of yourself, you will also attract liberated people around you, people who are also authentic and living their unshakable identity. And then use a guiding question. So before making any decision or commitment, ask yourself, is this moving me closer to or further from who I truly am? And then let that question be your North Star. That helps you make those decisions that are in alignment with yourself. Standing apart doesn't mean standing above. It means standing just in your truth, even when it's inconvenient or misunderstood or lonely. And that is not rebellion. It is a realignment with who you are. Just remember, you are not here to follow. You are here to remember who you are. You are here to lead, but it starts with yourself. You can get all of our latest versions of Quantum Spark classes at lairrealty.com/quantum sparks. And if you're facing a challenge in your business or life and you want us to help and answer questions, send us your questions at lairrealty.com/ask anything. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.